Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talks with Griff. Welcome back to the lounge. You know already what the vibes is on this side of the planet. Candle of the evening, obviously, Santal 33. This is a 40-hour candle. When I bought it, y'all, it had crystals in it. I'm gonna let that sit in. It had crystals in it. But the guest in the seat today, man, it's actually I didn't think that this would happen, and I was looking forward to this happening while this person was, how can I say this, closer to me, relatively speaking, but they are in another location right now. But the fact that he agreed to come on is absolutely beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Fresh Linen, a spoken word artist, a TEDx speaker, co-founder of Return, the number two Cinder, Cindr, and he's the author of Before the Street Lights Come On. Ladies and gentlemen, Fresh George Lennon, how are you doing, brother? It's beautiful to
Hey
have you
man,
in the seat today.
dude, thanks for that intro, first of all, and thanks for the opportunity. I already knew how you rock, like one-on-one seeing you around, but then when I found out you had your own podcast, I was like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, this the person to do it. So shout out to you for that. Just doing it. Yeah, just shout out to you for doing that in the first place. So good
Thank
on
you,
you, man.
man. Thank
I'm
you.
honored to be here.
Thank you, thank you. We appreciate your presence, man. So let's start with let's start with today. So how did you mold yourself into the man that people see today? I know that that can be sort of a broad question. So
Yeah.
let me start with this. At what point in your journey did you decide that it was time to heal, if you will, and that became
hmm
your transformation into being the creative genius that we see today? How was that like for you?
I think I don't think there was an epiphany day. I think it was like a slow light turning on.
Hmm.
Um, kind of recognize because a lot of times when people grow up in trauma, they don't realize that that's not how things are supposed to be until they learn from other people or they see how other things are supposed to be. So as I got older and I was like, dang, I get angry about this topic because I was robbed of uh, my experience at a younger age or in this relationship or something like that. And I think as I got older and did a lot more self-reflecting, like realizing the times where I was a toxic person or realizing I enabled toxicity in my relationships, friendships, and even relationships with family members. Just
Hmm.
recognizing those things kind of it's unfortunate that like a lot of artists like we heal through our art and we express that healing through art. But I always tell people like when my heart got broke like a couple of years ago, man, that was like something clicked, man. I literally was sitting on the floor. I remember being like kind of like depressed because I was like, dang, like what am I doing wrong? Like, why is it not me? Like, why if I I keep trying in these relationships and it just keep work, it don't work out, or I'm being, you know, abused or whatever the case is. And then when I
Hmm.
finally thought I had her, it didn't work out, and I don't know. I just wrote about it. And I just wrote about every girl that broke my heart and everything that I would do. And it just flowed really well. I was like, man, like this is good. And the first opportunity I got to read it out loud, I took it. And it was weird because like I never memorized
It's
anything. I would always
vulnerable.
read off. Yeah, and it was like I didn't know anybody. I was new to the base,
Hmm.
so I didn't know anybody. And they were like, hey, like there's this open mic thing. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go. And I didn't, like I said, I only knew a handful of people from CE,
Yeah.
and they showed up and supported. And I hit the stage, did my thing, and left because
He's like,
because I
I
ain't know
am
nobody.
nervous right now.
Yeah, yeah, man. But it takes a lot of self-reflecting, and that can be really scary. Um, and that's why, like in my book, I have a whole chapter of just like my sad and depressed poetry. And no,
Mhm.
I was very apprehensive to put that in the book because being in the military and being a man, you're taught that you don't talk about those things because they can rob you of opportunities or people will judge you and things like that. But
Mhm.
my editor and my wife was like, nah, there's somebody else that needs to read that. And there's somebody else that needs to see that too, even though it's therapeutic for me. other people hearing those poems kind of like, I don't know, it helps them. So I think that that hurt, man, really helped me um, form myself as an artist. And as an artist, the pain um, became like therapy, like using art.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, man.
Man, that is, I always say that for a man's transformation, it always happens either with life or with a woman. And every time I say that, I just start laughing because every man that I've talked to, or anybody that you know, well known as a celebrity, or that is an author, or anybody that's actually done something and that's given back to the world, right? That's a man. It always starts like, I was hurt at some point, and you really just chose to alchemize that pain into what everybody sees today. I
Yeah,
think that for me, at least, one way that I like to look at it is that I call it the cocoon stage, when it's just nothing
yeah,
but
I like that.
it's just nothing but darkness, right? And so and I didn't notice there's nothing that specifically decides whether or not a butterfly or a moth will come out of that phase. It
Mm,
just happens. I don't know if it's a mutation inside of the cocoon or not. And I'm just using that as
yeah,
an analogy to say that a lot of people like to rush the shadow work process of just feeling that, especially for us as melanated men, just as you were saying earlier,
yeah,
growing up in a culture where children are meant to be seen, not heard. If
right.
you even start to express your feelings to mama or daddy, it's
You
not
talking back?
validated.
Yeah,
Yeah, you getting
yeah,
smart. Go depress
yep,
them dishes. It's like
yes,
hold on, hold on, hold on.
yeah,
This is something is not right. Like I'm actually in the twilight zone right now.
yeah.
And it's once before I hit 30, actually I was talking to a therapist here at Ramstein, and I was
Mhm.
like, listen, before I go into this next phase of my life, I want to ensure that I don't carry any unhealed, unconscious traumas with me into this next phase. So I went
Right,
straight to mama immediately. I was like, let me go on and have this conversation with her. So that way we could have more of an authentic connection. It's not just a one-way street of energy. Like, yes, I
mm,
love you and I respect you because I choose to, because you are my mother, but you view this relationship as an obligation for me to do that, and you don't have to.
right,
That's not how
right.
this works. That's not how this
Yep.
works. So it
Yeah, man.
everybody needs a little bit of time in isolation to find out what their process is like of healing, because most people don't know, especially men. And I think that that's the only place where you can truly find that out at, is just sitting with you, looking your demons in the face and saying, okay, let's just work through this.
Yeah, for real. And it, like I said, it could be a scary thing. And for me, I'm glad you brought up moms. Like, I want to say, not this past New Year's, but I think like New Year's 2 years ago, I called my mom and we were talking, and she was like talking to me about my little sister, and she was confused. She was like, "Yo, how come like whenever she's like upset about something, she has to like yell and everything like that?" And I was like, "Mom, honestly, we grew up in a household where we couldn't really express ourselves. So I feel like every time she has to defend herself or make a point, she gets in defensive mode when she might not need to, and that comes out as yelling because that seems to be the only thing that got across for her. Me,
Mm.
I'd rather be quiet. My little sister seems,
Same, yeah,
and my
self-regulation.
mom being, yeah, and my mom being able to mature enough to uh, recognize and acknowledge that was huge for me, and that catapulted our relationship even further. And my pops was just out here visiting, and I talked to him about that too. I told him, I was like, "Hey man, I think I have a hard time taking compliments because I realize that you don't like when people try to fill your cup,
Mm.
and I think because you don't like that, you keep filling everybody else's, and you keep running dry, and you're tired. You're about to retire again for a second retirement, and you are running at 100% doing all these other things, and every time someone tries to give you kudos or a pat on the back, you shrug it off, or you push it away. And I think,
Mm.
as humble as that is you're putting your hand over the cup. And I realized that, like, me thinking like that's the right thing to do all the time, I have a really hard time smelling my flowers. And not to put that all on my father, but I told him, I was like, hey, like that's something we both need to work on. And we even got the same name, modeling everything after him.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And I've been doing that a lot lately. I've been smelling my flowers because we have a lot of accomplishments that we do that we just kind of don't realize. Like people sleep on making it home every day. Like you don't know how big, how many people don't make it home on their way home for work. So like there's a lot of little things we should start appreciating, like gratitude. So one thing that I started this year, um, sparked by my wife's, dismay of getting older, and she was like, oh man, like we're turning 31, like I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. And I heard this verse from Earth Game on this track called Church. And they said, you rob yourself of blessings when you lie about your age. And I was like, dang, I like that, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So what I do now is my new year starts every time it's my birthday. So every January 26th, what I'll do is reflect on whatever age I'm about to turn. Like, so I'm about to turn 32 next year. I'm going to reflect on 31 things that I accomplished this year. So I have a running list. I have an Excel sheet that I pop up on my work computer, and I have it, it's in the cloud. So it's on my laptop as well. And I can just look at like just things and man, like, being in the military and being CE, there's a lot of stuff like we're forced to do that we want to do. And all of those things are like, you could look at somebody else and like, oh, I ain't never put on an event before. I ain't never been a guest speaker before. I ain't never go to a class before. But it's something for us. We just like, oh yeah, I put on this, this thing. Like just now that barbecue, right? Like I put on that barbecue with a couple other coworkers. That's something that's on my list, and I put like the hours that I put in on that because that's an accomplishment. I might have felt like that was work at the time, but at the end of the day, that's an experience I had. And that's something I can be proud of. So at the end of the year, which will be not January 1st, because that's society's new year, January
Gregorian calendar
26th.
nonsense.
Yeah,
That's Matrix
yeah.
talk. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So January 26th for me, that's when I'm going to be like, all right, bet like these are 31 things I did, and next year will be 32. So just be like looking forward to like, dang, I lived a life versus like, dang, man, I'm getting older, So
Yeah,
and
that's an energetic shift, right? And I
yeah.
tend to do the same thing, man. Like I'm always introspecting right around December because I'm a Christmas baby. The wintertime,
Yeah.
being in the darkness, like that's when things are nurturing and they're in the soil, they're growing on their own accord. I do the exact same thing, man. It's like I'm not necessarily in limbo. I'm present before
Yeah.
the new chapter, and I'm present in the process of the unfolding of where I'm at right now. But
Yeah.
you mentioned something about smelling your flowers and coming back home on a daily and really and truly looking at that as something to be grateful for. Especially as men, we, just like how you said with your father, we get so used to making sure other people are okay. You're a father, you're a husband, you're a leader in your community when it comes to poetry. So you're getting calls, you're getting emails. The wife needs
Yeah.
this, the baby girl needs this, and then when you really
Mhm.
take time to sit down for yourself, you're like, okay, well, what does George need for the day? Like, did I even check in with me today? Right?
Yeah.
That is so important. And this year myself too, I have kind of become a little bit more present and aware of just the small things that I've done throughout the year, over the years, and just small accomplishments that I've made because the conditioning is that, well, if you haven't made it yet, then you have nothing to celebrate. And that's false.
Right.
You got to break that program. It's like the fact that you have already taken a step, Mike Tyson said this. If you've taken a step, you've done more than what most people will have ever done in their lifetime. And that momentum is going to continue to flow as long as you don't give up.
Yep. Yeah, man. I just told one of my coworkers that I asked her, oh yeah, because she asked me about my music. She was like, yeah, so you just put music out? I was like, yeah, I'm learning as I do it. I have friends that, give me advice, and I don't know, I got stuff stuck in my head. So I just make it and I put it out. And if I like it, I'm cool with it. But it's
Mm-hmm.
great if everybody loves it. And she's like, oh man, that's awesome. I wish I would do something, but and she said it in Portuguese. She was like, she's afraid to fail. And then me and the other,
Mm-hmm.
and the foreman, he was like, oh, he said something too in Portuguese, but I guess he said exactly what I ended up saying in English. I was like, well, I was always taught you only fail when you stop trying. Because if you keep getting up and you learn a little bit, then you're actually succeeding. And then that win at the end is so much better. Because if you just got it the first time, you feel like, oh, I'm a natural, I'm a prodigy, or whatever the case is. And it's not gonna have a lot of value. But if you start enjoying the process of, hey, I wasn't good at this, but now look at me, it's gonna be so much greater. So just go for it. And, I'm really big on like having people dream out loud. I was like, what do you want to do? What is it that you're afraid of? And she was like, I want to do nails. And I was like, what's stopping you? She was like, oh, well, and then like, boom, reason. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
cool, just take one
Programming.
of those. Yeah, I was like, take one of those. Instead of think of it as a rule, think of it as a challenge. I was like, you like games, right? She was like, yeah, like board games. I was like, every game has rules. If you look at the rules as a challenge and not like this is what you have to do and this is the box, you, the point of the rules in a game is to find different ways around them to still win. I was like, so
To
if you
get
think
what
about
you
your
want.
goals,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I told her that, and she started tearing up, and I was like, all right, I didn't mean for you to cry, but that's how I think about a lot of things like these challenges. And I don't know, man. I've failed a little bit, and I think that's why I'm successful because I embraced that failure. And
Mm.
there's some things that I literally just gave up and I stopped. And I remember as a kid, my parents let me try any sport I wanted to do, between taekwondo, boxing, soccer, basketball, tennis. And they were like, if you start the season, you have to finish it. You don't have to do it next year, but if you start, you gotta finish. And
Gotta
it's not
see
just
it
for you.
through.
Yeah, it's not just for you. It's also for your teammates and your name. And man, when my pops told me that as a kid, like it's your name. You're gonna be known as George the Quitter. If you say you will and you don't. If you say you will, then you must. And I was like, ooh, all right.
People
And
remember how you make them feel. Like
yes,
you could say you want to become a doctor. It's like, all right, cool.
yeah,
5 years later, yo, you doctor yet? Nah,
yeah,
man. They don't care why you're not. They just know that you said
yep,
back then that that's what you were gonna do, man. And
yeah.
it's that that's one of the main things that I like about jujitsu. I'm 10 months in now, and it's just been
Oh,
going by like
nice.
that, right? And it's the same thing that you said. It's like that. I've started it, so now I have to see it through, and that is, or I
Hmm.
choose to see it through, and that is a
Yeah,
direct, humbling ego check every single day. Somebody's trying to
yeah.
choke you, they're trying to put you to sleep, or they're trying to break a limb.
Hmm.
What are you gonna do?
Yep.
And you
Especially
might,
when you start off in like a lock, like you start off in the position where you're
yeah,
already
yeah.
losing, like yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
it's that it can be mentally challenging, but at the same time, it's also mentally stimulating too. Once you learn how to breathe and be present,
hmm,
there's you have people that spaz in the beginning because they don't know what to do, they don't want to die. Fight or flight response starts to happen. But I was talking to somebody recently about this, and it's what work you put in will show up on the mat. And it's the same thing when
mm,
it comes to our goals, anything that we want to achieve. We also tend to look at it as like, or we've been conditioned to look at it as like, we need to do it as quickly as possible because
mm,
this person over here is doing it and they're traveling to Bali every 9 months, so it seems, or every 3 months, so it seems, and I'm over here. What it appears to be is like grinding, and I don't have the opportunity to enjoy the
yeah,
fruits of my labor, right? But
mm,
comparison is the thief of joy.
yeah,
It takes time, but over the course of an extended period of time, that change happens, and you won't even know that it happened. You'll just
mm,
be in the midst of creating. Going back to your friend, right? Okay, well,
yep,
start the nails. Okay, well, hey George, how do I do this? How do I, I got some nails, but how do I get clients? Start with your friends. Start with somebody that
yep,
trusts you. And then
yep,
before you know it, you getting clients during the week. It may be two or
hmm,
three, but you know for a fact that those are your clients. You
right,
slowly, it's like giving them a layup, right? Once they get that layup, they start taking mid-range jumpers, and then they just start shooting from 40 feet out
yeah,
because
yeah,
they have the confidence of tackling a project that they started, that they've completed, that they've excelled at, and now it's like, okay, well, what's the next thing? You've done that as well.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that you brought up the that comparison theory, because with the self-help books, I read them inconsistently. I know I should probably just read it all the way through, but I kind of like when I'm in a spot to like just open it up at a random spot and it's like take that lesson for the day. So I'm reading The Subtle Art of Not Giving F. Have you heard that one?
Right, the other one, yeah.
Yeah, it's orange.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how social media will put us in those spirals of like unhappiness, right? You get on Instagram, you start doom scrolling, and then I get a picture of I see Griff. He's at the beach. He's got this hot girl with him and his brand new car. And I'm like, dang man, how you get that, man? I should be doing that. And I want that now because like I want the hot girl, I want the beach, and I want the car. So I grind, I work hard, looking at this picture of Griff, seeing this beach, this hot girl in the car, scrolling. Every day I'm grinding, I'm doing my thing. I finally save up. I get the beach, I get the girl, and I get the car. The girl don't love me. The car, it just looks good, but it don't run good. And all this time, I had no idea that this is a picture that you posted from a trip you probably took 5 years ago, but you just post a little bit every once in a while, and nobody knows the work that you put in to do all of that. So I'm chasing your happiness without my own, and I'm not appreciating the journey. Yeah, and it's like when I read that, I was like, dang, like I don't do that. That's crazy though, And then I say that, right? And today is a good example. I made a list of, because I'm dropping an album next year on Father's Day. So I made a list of like when I'm gonna release singles, and I spaced it out based off like formulas I learned from like Russ and our other independent artists. And it's a lot of patience because you just want to drop your music and have people listen to it, right? But there's a marketing thing to it. There's a business side to it. So I'm like, all right, this is my formula. This is FreshLinen's formula. I'm gonna stick to it and see what happens. And then I see like another poet who's really awesome, I really look up to. And he's dropping something every week, and the art is good, the poetry sounds good, the mix and master is good. And I'm like, dang man, maybe I should move my dates up. And I'm like, you know what? Nah, that's his flowers. That's his garden. Let me water his garden. Let me support him, and he gonna do the same for me. And I'm just gonna go at my own pace and do my thing and see what works for me. But I saw it. I was like, so I'm not chasing the girl. I'm chasing what I think success is, but success is a correlation to your happiness, right? Like it's not just a bunch of accomplishments. And I caught myself today. I was like, oh, that's it right there.
There's growth.
Literally got, yeah. Yep, that happens, man. And I notice a lot of people are upset because of things like that.
I don't I wouldn't consider myself a poet per se. I would consider myself more of a thinker or a philosopher. I just tend to like I'll just be in my world, not in this realm at all. And I'll think of something and I'll write it down and I'll create a little quote of mine. And you were talking about happiness and the pursuit of happiness, and I made something. Said too many of us in this generation are in a pursuit of happiness when we should be in a pursuit of peace. And that peace is what keeps you grounded in what is happening within you right now. Because I mean, one thing that we don't, that well, I won't say that we don't, but it's challenging for us to understand is that we're doing things that people in our family have never done before. So it's difficult to get that type of advice from them. It's like, yeah, baby, I'll support you. Son, I support you. Go and do your thing. It's like, yeah, but I really have to. I gotta leave the Leaf Village. I gotta really go out there and see who knows what's up because I've never done this, but something in me is pushing me to do it. So let me at least on my journey find somebody that's on the same wavelength of vibration as me to help me along this way, giving myself enough grace and discipline to be grounded in this moment so that way I can just stay zoned in on my goal to, let's say, become Hokage, for an example, right? That it takes time, right? I see it all the time, man. Like people, they're like, oh, well, maybe you should write this book. And I'm like, bro, writing shit, a book, shit. Like, where does one begin? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
Shit,
yeah.
you know, and there really is no how you write is going to be different from Jordan Peterson. How Jordan
Hmm.
Peterson writes is different from Carl Jung, right? So, and
Yeah.
how I may begin to do it is going to be my unique way. And just that again, going
Hmm.
back to the appreciating your flowers thing, that is
Hmm.
critical for us. Is just really giving ourselves the opportunity to be like, okay, I may not understand this fully, but I'm gonna build it as I fly it. And
Yeah.
along that process, you learn new things. It's just like in a video game, right? It's like, yeah, you got the main
Yeah.
story, but if I do these side quests, oh, yo, I met dude. He say, hey, man, if you use this program, talk to this person, boom, you got this
Hmm.
template that's gonna help you. Boom, that's 3,000 experience, right? Now you got more
Right
resources
there.
to, yeah, going back on the main course. So that's one thing that I'm
Yeah.
learning too. Networking is really important, and with you knowing
Hmm.
multiple artists and now being in the music industry as well, you probably already have a complete understanding of that.
Yeah. I think I definitely relate with you with pioneering your own dreams because like I realized, man, I'm trying to see how I could put this. I realized like for me as a I'm sensitive about my art to an extent, right? Like there's certain things where I'm like, all right, cool, people aren't gonna like I'm not over here like boo-hooing because I got 12 views on a video. You know, like I think it's kind of funny sometimes that I'll put hours in on making a video and like I get 12 views, but then I'll do something, real quick, whip something up real quick, and that one is the viral one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I realized like when I get support from people who are not in my lane or my like as an artist or artist at all, and I show them something, and I'm like, hey, like I think I'm about doing this, X, Y, and Z, and they're just like, dang, that's awesome, go for it. And I'm like, yeah, I was really hoping you'd know somebody to help me, or you could help me with this, or so, you know, and
Yeah.
and that was my own expectation, but I realized that support looks like a bunch of different things, right? Support looks like feedback. Support doesn't look like just buying your stuff and like, what if my stuff is mediocre? What if my music is mediocre and nobody's telling me, but they supported me, so they just hit and play? Like, I don't want that. I want, I don't want you to be a hater, but I also want feedback because that's how I'm going to grow.
Mhm.
And if you don't know enough about the craft, be honest. Like you as a consumer, is this appealing to you? Do you like that? And I think that's something we fear a lot. And I say we as in people because in Americans anyway, because I think we're bred to be non-confrontational
Okay.
and and feedback can come off as confrontation that people don't like. And as an adult, when you finally start getting feedback, it feels like an attack. And
Mhm.
so one, people don't know how to give it, and two, people don't know how to receive it or know how they like to receive feedback.
Mhm.
And I feel like we would be so much farther as people if we could learn how to embrace feedback. And that's one thing I learned as being an ALS instructor.
Mhm.
Um, Feedback will come often, unsolicited, and we would learn different ways. Like feedback shouldn't, when you get somebody feedback, it shouldn't be like whew, I feel good to get that off my chest because then you were just
Right.
venting, right?
Right. Right.
Your feedback should be for the betterment of that other person, and it should also to let that person know this is what it's like to be on the other side of you. And if it doesn't come with those elements and it's more of a vent session, then maybe you should be having a conversation and not giving quote unquote feedback.
Mhm.
Another cool tip that we do, and I do this in my relationships and with my friendships, and it's definitely uh, now that you brought up cocoons, it metamorphosized the way I talk to people and talk to my friends. If it bothers you twice, say something. So, Griff, if say I walked past you and I stepped on your shoes and I didn't even realize it, right?
Mhm.
Either or maybe I did it on purpose. I don't know. But from your lens, like, damn, George just stepped on my shoes. He didn't say nothing. It's like, all right, cool. That bothers you once.
Mhm.
And now it's 3 a.m. You playing your game or something, and then like out of nowhere,
It
like,
goes
dang, I
back.
really did I piss Lennon off? Like, why you do that? I thought we was boys.
Yeah.
If you don't talk to me about it,
How
it's
are you
gonna
gonna
fester.
know?
And
Yeah.
then yeah, and you gonna
Resentment.
and then the next yeah, and say I make a joke with you or something. You're like, oh. So we got beat. All right, cool. And now you coming at my neck seriously. I'm like, oh shoot, what's happening?
Yeah, you're
Or
like, where
even
did this
worse,
come from? Yeah.
right? Or even worse, right? You go to a safety net, kind of like a sanity check, right? You go to your friend and you're like, yo, man, tell me I ain't crazy, but like, yo, Lennon stepped on my shoes the other day. He just walked by, he ain't even say nothing, man. Like, is he mad at me because? And then now your anxiety is gonna be like, oh, maybe it's this. Maybe he mad that I ain't do this. Like, dang, his birthday just passed. Like, why would he do something?
Start
All of this,
creating
and I,
narratives. Yeah.
yeah, my goofy ass was just rushing to go to dental or something. I didn't even realize. I
Yeah.
wear glasses. I didn't even have my glasses on, bro. I didn't even know it was you. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you would tell me, right now, the problem with the safety check, right? If you go to a safety check, then it's on you to immediately come to me next, because if not, the person you went to do a safety check with, right, a sanity check, they might be like, dang, man, like I was just talking to Griff the other day, man, he tripping, man. I think Lennon mad at him or something. And the other person be like, oh, really? Why do you think he mad? It's like, oh, he said Lennon stomped on his shoe and didn't even say nothing. He said he looked mad and everything. He probably mad because he didn't make rank or something like that, and Griff did. It's like, dang, man, that's crazy. I didn't know Lennon was like that. Boom, and now that goes, and then a rumor mill comes, and then like maybe a couple weeks or
Bad
days
news
later,
travels faster than good news. Yeah. And then the root of
yeah,
it was never even discussed. It was never even
yep,
discussed because that person didn't feel safe
yeah,
enough within themselves to come to you. That goes back to
yep,
accountability and, in a sense, that person learning how they communicate or how they confront communication, if that
yep,
makes sense. That takes time though. Like, yeah,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure, I've never been married, right? So
yeah,
within the confines of a marriage or a long-term relationship.
mhm.
Another thing that I said, a quote, just to throw this out there. I
Yeah.
said,
Keep
yes,
throwing them quotes. I'm loving that. Yeah, give me
I
that.
said, communication is king, but comprehension is queen. We could
Ooh, come
discuss,
on.
we could discuss, well, like, I can come and talk to you about everything, and we could have sat down and talk an hour, 2 hours, right? Three
Yeah,
days go by, the same thing happens, and you're like, I mean, it wasn't just 72 hours ago that, we're so. What didn't you understand, right? Like did
right,
I
right.
was I not accurate? And that's where we get, at least in my assertion, I think that's where we go wrong when it comes to communicating within our relational dynamics, is that I used to do this all the time, dude, all the time. I would be so concerned about how they would respond to my communication that I would filter out what I would say to them instead of honoring what I'm feeling and doing my job, which is authentically and wholeheartedly articulating what I'm feeling, what I felt, or what I may have thought happened. That's my only job. After I get that out there, if you might be a little bit triggered, I'm sorry. We can discuss
Yeah,
it if you want to. But I did my part by coming to George and being like, hey, man, you stepped on my shoes. Like, I didn't really appreciate that. These things run me like $50. So, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
is something wrong? Did I make you upset? Like, I think that we're getting better at it within our generation, but
yeah,
we see it all the time about accountability, confrontation, because people think confrontation instantly, it has the connotation of anger and
yeah,
resistance. But just as you said, if I don't come to you and tell you what's happening, I'm harboring resentment. You see me in the BX, like, hey Griff, I'm having a little kid back at the house. You want to come chill? I'm like, nah, man, I ain't trying to come chill with you. You like, oh, I mean,
all right, easy, yeah.
this I had something else lined up too. I mean, she was
Yep,
interested, but you all right, cool. Hey, all right, that's
yep,
fine.
yep.
It's strange, man. It's strange.
Yeah, man. I like two things that you said. You said honoring your own feelings, and like
Mm.
that it's your job to um, communicate what that is. And I realized that too. Like, so in my relationship, Cindy's first language is not English, so we had a lot of like idioms to get past, and like mannerisms and figures of speech to kind of get through. And she's also not used to being with a man uh, that wants to communicate, because if something is off, I am not
Ladies,
going
I
to bed. Like, we
apologize on
talking.
behalf of men. My brother and I, we apologize on behalf of men. This is ridiculous. Continue. This
Yeah,
is absolutely
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. So she was really surprised, like when we got together, that like one, I knew how to cook more than like, ramen noodles, and
You're
that,
self-aware. You got something going on
yeah,
up here.
yeah, yeah. She
Yeah.
like when she told me that, she was like, yeah, like none of my boyfriends cook, and they never clean or anything like that. And I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. But anyway,
Wow.
yeah, we would talk, man, and this the I realized that I was afraid to like hurt her feelings, so I would filter out what I really mean or don't say anything. I actually still have that issue where like I'll just shut down and just be like, all right, I'll be quiet, you're right, and
Mhm.
that's definitely, we call it a scar from past relationships. So it's like when
Most
you got hurt,
definitely.
yeah, we call it scars. So if like sometimes she starts acting like out of character, or if I act out of character, and we call it out or call it up, I should say. Say, hey, babe, like you said you would do this, but now you're starting to act like that. What happened? She's like, sorry, scar. And that's a sorry way of communicating. Like, ooh, you need space, or you healing from this right now. Okay, cool. We can talk through it, or I'll give you that space. But I realized because of those scars, I would over communicate,
Mm.
and I would feel bad because then I'm like, dang, man, I think she is sensing that I don't trust, that I feel like she doesn't trust me. So for example, she'd be like, hey, what you doing? Actually that day we were at Lopez place playing Super Smash Brothers.
Mm.
She messaged me, she was like, hey, what you doing? And bro, I sent her a Snapchat with the time filter and location. I was like, I'm chilling with the guys, because
Mm.
I've been in so many relationships where if I'm like chilling with the guys, my ex wouldn't trust me because she's been hurt by other dudes who lie and cheat. Um, where she would make my exes would make me like send these locations and, who you with? I don't want to see no girls there and stuff like that. And Cindy's not like
Yeah.
that at all. So she'd be like, hey, you kind of doing the most. Like, why are you acting that way? And I was like, shoot, it's a scar. I'm sorry. Like you don't deserve for me to like,
The
uh,
remnants of somebody else's
yeah,
of the
that's
experience
something
I
I'm
had. Yeah.
right. And my problem was when we first got together is I thought, and I'm actually writing a poem/song about it now. Um, that I thought like when you're healing, you you have to heal alone. Like I shouldn't, like shouldn't have to help me carry my baggage, right? I used to think, and that's something I'm healing from right now, because it'll be something going on, and she was like, "You want to talk about it?" I'm like, "No, no, it's not your fault. Like, don't worry about it." And she was like, "Well, no, like I wanna hear about it." So I'll tell her about, some things that happened to me, and she was like, "Okay, cool. Like, what do you want to do about it?" Like, she'll ask me empowering questions instead of like, oh well, this is what you should have did and this is how you can do that. This is like, all
Right,
right, cool,
right.
so what are you doing to work on that? And
That
first of
part.
all, I've never had a woman like that. And two, first woman I've ever been with that said that she's proud of me. But to have someone helping you heal who's also healing too, and that's
Right.
why I refer to her as my garden. And it's like, because we tend to each other and we reap from each other, and it's just like, I don't know, we're just growing, we're growing together. And
Right, right.
um, I think that's important, not only in romantic relationships, but also platonic as well.
I
You
agree.
shouldn't have people just taking from you all the time.
No, Big Sean said it best. He said it in the song Deep Reverence with Nipsey. What's coming, energy is a two-way street. What's coming is going. If it doesn't give you more, it drains you. Most people, or
Hmm.
if not everybody on the planet right now, is realizing that energy is and has always been the number one currency. The problem is that people
Yeah.
don't know how to manage and sustain their own without like having a symbiotic effect with somebody else's energy. Perfect example
Right.
is being within the confines of a relationship, right? I didn't, it took me a while to get that because I did not understand for the longest that you could be inside of a relationship and work on yourself. That version of me,
Hmm.
if he was to talk to me now, he'd be like, how did you, what the hell? Because back then I did not get that. I would like, a girlfriend of mine, she would say, okay, hey, well, you're doing this. Immediately, I would say, okay, I will go and work on that because
Yeah.
if it's something that I'm doing, it's something that I need to tend to versus looking at it
Hmm.
as like, well, maybe she can be a guiding light to help me look at something that I haven't looked at in my subconscious. Maybe there's a door that I need to open, right?
Hmm.
Another thing, too, is that is this person or is your partner or significant other, do you feel safe enough to be triggered by them? Because that's all that
Yep.
that scar is. because
Yeah.
it's relative to us as melanated men opening up and being vulnerable with our women. Sometimes they don't know how to receive that well. So there's
Yeah.
another door that we have to learn how to decondition ourselves from. So just like how you were saying, Sydney comes along
Yeah.
and she's just completely different. And you're like, okay, so now there's two things I need to kind of look at right here. Now, one, I need to look at this scar from
Yeah.
not feeling like I can be vulnerable. And now here's a woman who has created a safe space for me, not only to be vulnerable, but empowering me at the same time.
Hmm.
God, what you doing, bro? What's
Yeah.
going on here? I need to
Where's the
speak to the
catch? Yeah.
manager. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, man. What do you think for somebody who is trying to create that safe space or find that safe space? How do you think you get there in a relationship or with a friendship? Because you're right, like to be vulnerable with somebody, you have to also be comfortable, and I think
Right,
that's a factor that people forget about the comfortability. So how do you
right.
build that? What does that look like?
So for me, again, quotes, right? I'm gonna paraphrase this one because I don't remember this one off the dome exactly, but ultimately it
Mhm.
goes something like, you can only meet yourself and other people where they've been met, right? So
Mhm.
if you don't have enough time spent with you to not judge you, not shame you, and not belittle you for the experiences that you've gone with, that within itself is self intimacy and vulnerability with you. If you don't,
Mhm.
if it's difficult for you to do that, it's going to be difficult for you to do that with somebody, especially somebody that's genuine, who you feel that's genuine, because we kind of get a little clammy too. We
Yeah.
one thing that I like to say is that we're just older versions of our younger selves as kids. However we coped as children is how we cope now, just in a more broader, more intense way, if you will.
Yeah.
So, prime example, like a friend of mine who's back in New Orleans, I learned a lot of things from our relationship. Shout out to Lexus. I got so used to being the person that everybody called on for advice, the guru, right? Guru,
Yeah.
guru, critique, and avatar, right? And if I don't have the answer, then I need to find a way to get the answer. So I would insert
Mhm.
myself into their issues to help them fix it because it's like foresight. I can see that if you do this, this is going to happen. How can you see this, Griff? I've done it. So I'm trying to prevent that. Stop trying to play God, right? Travis Scott. I learned through our relationship that it is in his divine timing to go through that on his own so that way he can get the lesson that he needs. Even though I can see that it's probably going to hurt him, maybe I feel as though I can give him some advice that's going to prevent that, right? That's me getting in the way of God. That's also me getting in the way of the universe. That's also me getting in the way of his own growth that he needs to experience. I can still love you, have grace for you, and want the best for you, even though I know that you're about to experience a season of pain and, let's say, aloneness, right? That doesn't mean that I'm
Yeah.
not going to be there for you. I
Right.
just know that it's best for the dynamic of our relationship for me to just allow you to be in that space. So just going back to how you created, it all starts with you. If you are not a safe space within yourself and you can't be in the own confines of your home and it be peaceful here, you gotta always be going out, you gotta always be with the boys, gotta be out in the streets. You're not a peaceful person inherently. You have to learn how to build that. And then once you build that, you nurture it and you sustain it whenever you're presented with somebody who is a platonic friend or a romantic interest, you would feel more confident in knowing that you can share experiences that you've had. And I don't want to tie a title to it like painful or good. It's just an experience, right? You can share
Yeah.
experiences with this person without feeling as though they're going to judge you for it.
Mhm.
And in turn, because energy is a two-way street, they'll feel that, oh, this person is safe within themselves. And maybe that will give that other person the confidence to feel as though they can be safe around you, thus they become safe within themselves as well. And then you both
Mhm.
grow, right? It becomes just this blankie of safeness and vulnerability.
Yeah, I like
Oh,
it. That and that's why I like using the garden analogy, man, because it's healthy and it's beautiful way of thinking of being vulnerable versus It's so funny, man. Like growing up as a kid playing video games, and you see like the character you want to play, and it says like a list of vulnerabilities. So it's it's like bad. You see Superman like vulnerability, kryptonite. All right, cool. Vulnerability is something bad, and now um, I use that word so often, as a good thing, as a
Hmm.
superpower. In my TEDx, I listed it as one of the superpowers that human beings have, and it's it's true, man. Like I've definitely grown as a man, as a father, a husband, and as a friend, as a just a person, by being vulnerable. Sometimes I think people are so used to, because I think I'm the funny guy every once in a while, but they think of sarcasm, especially military community, right? Like
Oh
we always
yeah,
got a joke,
yeah.
and I'll genuinely be like asking people like, "Yo, like, what you looking forward to?" And they'll be like, "Uh, getting off of
That's
work." I'm like, nah, but seriously, like, what are you looking forward to? Like,
right.
what's coming up? And there's like, oh, well, and then they start getting vulnerable because a lot of people think vulnerability is just things that make you sad, but it's also things that excite you to make you happy, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
think
the
about like,
part that makes you feel giddy like a kid. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's vulnerability too. And I learned to treat vulnerability like a comedy show. So if you ever watch Kevin Hart, for example, right? And it's kind
Mhm.
of who I noticed this formula with. I noticed it with Kevin Hart. I noticed it with Bernie Mac. Eddie Murphy. Most comedians will make fun of themselves first, like for their big shows, right? They'll make fun of themselves first. Like their biggest thing is make fun of themselves. And then if they got some time, or if it works into the script or it works into their set, they'll notice an audience member, call them up and be like, hey, like what's your name? And then they'll tie a joke into that. But they won't
Mhm.
make fun of the audience member until they make fun of themselves first. And I kind of took that concept and tried it with vulnerability. So I'll be vulnerable about something I'm happy about or something that like makes me sad or whatever the case is. And in that way, when I bring up a topic again, the person who I'm talking to, I'm entering their core, right? They're
Mhm.
a person that can call them up, and they know that I'm really there and I really care. They know, well, George is being genuine when he talks about this, or George is serious when he talks about that, and I share my poetry, right? Like it's
Mhm.
a poem. That's probably like the quote unquote like softest, coolest thing,
That's a
like a
door
person.
directly into your heart.
Right, yeah, like
You're
there's
taking a
no
peek.
like, yeah, there's like no, unless you put music to it, there's no music to cover up what you're really feeling right there. So,
Mhm.
and I don't know, man, that just works for me, and that kind of helps me set the tone for creating that vulnerability, that comfortability for vulnerability within my relationships, because I share first, and that's hard, and I had to get comfortable with doing that with myself. I had
Ooh,
to
yes,
really
it
like,
is. Yes, it
yeah, I
is.
had to really heal, man, to start doing that. And there's still stuff I'm not fully healed from, and I realize, and I give myself grace. I'm like, hey, like I actually, it's crazy. I didn't realize this until I became an ALS instructor. I can talk about, like today at the picnic, they asked me to talk about suicide intervention and prevention.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, easy, no problem, right? And then if they were to ask me to do this maybe a month ago or maybe in November or something, where it's like the anniversaries of like my friends who ended their life, I don't think I could have did it, because you have to give yourself grace. Those are vulnerable times for you, and it's hard for you to help others if you can't help yourself in those moments. And I recognized that when I was an ALS instructor, because we were teaching about it, and again, breeding an environment of vulnerability and feedback.
Mhm.
Dog, I talked for 90 minutes straight, like 2 blocks straight of just suicide intervention and prevention, and why you deserve tomorrow, why you're worth it, blah blah blah. I didn't even like, I barely read the lesson plan, and one of the students, after the lesson was over, I had like tears in my eyes, because that lesson just happened to fall on the death day anniversary of one of my friends who committed suicide, and she was getting help and everything. It just didn't make sense to me, man. Like, dang, like she followed the formula. Like people helped her, people asked her escort, all of that stuff, and she got medicine, and it still happened. I didn't. It didn't make sense. And one of my students came up to me, and he was like, hey sir, I just want to let you know, I appreciate you being vulnerable with us, but you talked the whole time. Like none of us got a chance to talk and express ourselves. And I was like, oh shit, I got some healing to do. I felt so bad. I was like, dang, like I really did take up 2 blocks of just, this uh, emotional dumping on my students. And luckily, like uh, I don't think they judged me anyway, because like near the end of the course, we all kind of knew each other. But the fact that my student was able to come give me feedback made me feel better, because I was like, dang, like if anything, yeah, I might have botched that lesson, if anything, I definitely bred an environment where they feel safe enough to let me know, to give me some feedback. Hey, this is what it's like to be on the other side of you. And that's when I realized, like, it's kind of like when you're out drinking and you see something and you want to say something, but if you're too drunk, like you might not be the person that should be going up. Like you can't help yourself. You
Hey,
shouldn't
bro, you're
rise
not
up. Like,
Batman to like go on, sit down, bro.
yeah, go
It's
ahead,
not
sit
your
down with
turn.
Alfred, bro.
It's not your turn right now, bro.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I brought this up, man. And I bring it up every chance we get a chance to talk to the Barnes Center. I was like, hey, nobody's teaching us how to deal with this lesson if we still have trauma to work through. Mm-hmm. And I just get a bunch of head nods, like, hey, yeah, that's true, that's true. It's like, yeah, but your base should have some type of training, Like we encourage instructors to get to go to therapy if they need it, X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, nah, but seriously, like, so what I started doing is, like, after we teach those lessons, I would ask all instructors, like, hey, how y'all doing today? And of course, they shrug it off, oh, I'm good, Some of my students were sad, but I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But I'm asking you because I know that you lost somebody. I'm asking you because I know you know somebody who's a survivor of sexual assault, or someone who didn't complete suicide, but wish they did still. Like I'm asking. That's why I'm asking you. And you had to go downstairs and lead this lesson. So, and I care, because you're gonna go home with that in the back of your head, whether you think about it or not. So, this is my intentionality behind being genuine. Kind of throws people off sometimes, and I kind of love it. To be honest with you, I love that. We learned about something.
It's hard for them to receive it. They're not used to it.
Yeah,
there's not enough of it in the world, I should say.
Yeah, I love that it's growing common with my group of friends. I even had a friend told me that I make them think too much, and I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll dial back. Like,
I tend to do that from time to time.
Yeah, when it gets to those drunken conversations, when we get philosophical, cool. You gotta give me my space to do that. But all right, cool. I know we in a club right now. I don't need to be asking you these questions. I don't need to be dissecting lyrics this much. Yeah.
They're like, hey, can you just turn it down, Griff, just a little bit?
Bro, like, we just trying to listen to this trap music. We don't need you dissecting the lyrics. Like, yeah. But yeah, what small talk is, right, Griff?
Yeah.
Like an example of small talk, if I ask you how's the weather over there in Germany, you just gonna be like, oh, it's really crazy hot and there's no AC, right? Cool. In the conversation, unless you could segue that into talking about, that's why you love being an HVAC or something like that. You know what I mean?
Who knows, right?
Yeah, but that's it. But a big talk question is like what I said earlier, like what's something you're looking forward to, right? And you could say, oh, I'm looking forward to the weekend. Oh, why? What's happening on the weekend? It's like, oh, well, I'm about to go to Knoxville. Like, dang, why you want to go to Knoxville so bad? It's like, oh, man.
I'm looking forward to doing
I've been working. Yeah, I've been working crazy. That's really what we're going to talk about. Oh, why you been working so crazy? It's like, oh, well, I'm trying to finish this, do this, and this. That's the real conversation.
Yeah, you slowly, you're just walking with them and like, okay, in Knoxville, yeah. Let's sit with this one for a little bit. This
right.
is the one. Yeah.
Yep. And then once you get close enough with that person and you start hitting them with those big talk questions and you ask them what's something you're looking forward to, they're going to jump straight to that third thing they were going to talk about. I'm like, man, like I'm almost done with, this goal, this, and this, or I'm not looking forward to doing this because I got this going on. You're right. I get to know you more in 5 minutes than I would if I was just asking small talk questions. So that's one thing I like to do. And Cindy and I, we kind of do that every once in a while. We'll ask each other like big talk questions. And it could be something political too. It could just be like hey, like babe, in the States, this is what's going on in this state. Do you think this is fair? Like, no, because what if this, and this happen? It's like, oh, why do you think that? It's like, oh, from my experience, bang, bang, bang. Now I'm learning a little bit more about my wife, and I'm also learning about how I think, even
Yeah,
if
you
I don't
gotta
agree with
challenge
her, right?
yourself from time to time. Yeah, you're like,
Right.
I probably should work on that. That's not
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We do that pretty often, and luckily it just makes us love each other even more. Like we get to see where each other's hearts and minds are, and it's pretty cool. Like, and we give each other space to digest too. Like, if she says something that's kind of off, and I'm like, hey, babe, like, that's kind of biased, or that's wrong, or have you thought about it this way? She even checks me too, and that's what I love about a relationship. It's not like this lovey-dovey. Like she would check me. She'd be like, hey, like, you shouldn't say that. Why
Right.
shouldn't I say that? She was like, well, this is offensive. This is actually, that's not true. You can look that up. Blah blah blah. I'm like, dang, my whole life, let me look it up. Like, dang, I'm over here sitting here ignorant,
Yeah,
But
you're
if I
like,
didn't have
ooh,
this,
ooh, so I
right?
should
If
be
I didn't have this
quiet.
big talk question with my best friend, right here,
Mm.
I probably would still be in that hole, in that dark spot. And just think about how many other people are out in your circles or in your friend groups, and like, if we just did that more, like, I don't know, man. Like I said, if we just gave each other feedback more and just were more human and got past the superficial things a little bit more, it would be so much. We'd be so much farther. Like, and I joke with my dad, like we were smoking cigars and on a patio outside, and we just got into talk. We were talking about religion, so Norse pagan, Greek mythology,
Mm.
Christianity, and Islam. And we was talking about like a bunch of similarities and stuff like that, and their influences and where the religions came from. And
Mm.
then we entertained the thought of aliens, right? And I was like, what if aliens are, mushrooms, right? What if they're already on Earth, and it's kind of like a Prometheus type of thing. And then he was like, well, what if the mushrooms actually came from, we were just entertaining this idea.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
from a different planet, and they go to different galaxies, just like picking one planet in that whole galaxy, and just like boom, start a little bit of life here and keep moving. And I was like, yeah, but do you think they would ever like visit their kids, And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure they would, come back and visit. And I was like, I don't think they would, man. I think aliens would show up to Earth and be like, oh wait, y'all still arguing? Like, y'all don't get along with each other? Like,
We gonna
you're
come
still
back in
arguing
like
about,
5 or 10 years. Y'all vibration
yeah,
too low.
yeah, like, oh,
That's
you
a
can't
fact
agree with,
though. That's
yeah,
a
like, think
fact.
about, like, it's like, oh, y'all had world wars? What? Your whole planet is not on the same page yet? Yeah, all right, man. Maybe we should just go back to, because the animals, at least they all got on the same page. You know what I mean? Like, what if
Yeah, it's
they
like
got
what
here and they're
the
just
hell is
like,
taking y'all so long right now? Like y'all supposed
yeah,
to be on pace like 15 years ago. Y'all behind
yeah,
collective schedule.
yeah. And I think about that. I'm like, dang, if aliens came right now, they'd be like, probably perplexed that we have like all these different like uh, tensions from different countries and stuff like that, and
Mm.
we're like, oh no, you can't do that because we don't get along with Russia over there, or if they showed up in Russia first, and like, yeah, you don't want to go pretty much anywhere else in the world because they don't like us.
Yeah.
So
Aliens like,
yeah,
hey man,
so
they on the ship wondering like, what in the hell is going down on planet Earth right now? Like
yeah,
this is,
yeah, we might have to
I've
start
said
somewhere
it, bro.
else.
Like I need to talk to the manager. Like, and I don't need to talk to God. I just need to talk to the manager. Like, listen, whatever you put me down here to do, let's go ahead on and speed up that process. Because this version
Yeah.
is not it right now. Like, I don't know what's taking us so long. This version is not it right now. We damn near in the cyberpunk
Yeah,
society right now, for real. The
for
last
real.
question that I wanted to ask you because we were running low on time. You made a
Okay.
post on IG, and I think it was relative to mental health, and we kind of went back and forth in the conversation just a little bit. What is how is your mental health currently, and throughout all of your accolades in life, and just where you're at right now? What's
Mhm.
one thing that you do to regulate your mental health to keep you to get back on track once you get it off track?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good question, man. So first of all, thank you. Before I answer that question, I just want to say the first time one of my friends asked me that, shout out to Vanessa. Just a couple, I think it was like 2019. She asked me that question, and I high key went off on her.
Oh my.
I remember reading that message, or no,
And the
I remember
story
answering that phone
thickens.
call, and she was like, hey, so how's your mental health? And I was like, it's good. Why? And I key was like gave her an attitude and everything, and then when we got off the phone, I was like, damn, why did I get mad about her asking me that question?
Mm.
And I realized it really wasn't good. I was lying, And just recently in November, actually, when we met up in Dallas, I apologized to her for that. I was like, hey, like I went off on you and asked me about my mental health, and that was not right. And I really appreciate you asking me that because it definitely changed my frame of mind, and I grew an appreciation for mental health. But I'd say right now it's pretty good. There's some days where it dips low, and the biggest thing is that it's that cycle that artists fall into where we think we're only as good as our last creation, and we have to constantly keep creating. And I keep falling into that. And some things that I do now is kind of like I said, smelling my flowers. One way I'll do that is I'll share an old video of a poem or a song or something that I did that I'm really proud of, right? And right now I have that poem out about being a dad, and sometimes I just love sharing that again. It's like, man, like I really put some work into it, and it's beautiful to hear my daughter's voice on it. And if anything, I created her, and that's the beautiful thing that's on the track. Even if the poem sucks, my daughter's voice is on there saying she loves me and she got me. And
Yeah.
I would say, man, I've been looking for an opportunity to say this, and I'm glad you asked me this question. I will say the one thing that they don't tell you when you have a child is that yes, they bring you joy, but sometimes you gotta have your own joy. And sometimes I'm sad, dog. Like I'm upset, stressed, sad, and a little one will run up to me, smile on her face, eyes wide, and
Mm.
I feel like she deserves to see a smile back, because I'm like, man,
Your
like you
daddy.
deserve happiness,
Yeah.
and you can't do it all the time. And dude, like I feel horrible, but I feel even worse if I fake a smile all the time. And yeah, recently I know I was really stressed about something. And that's it's crazy how it is. Like, I think it was about money, right? I was really stressed about because our car had broke down, and then it broke down again, and then like it finally like died. So that was like over 2,000, almost 3,000 euros just down the drain. And we like trying to figure out what we're gonna do, and how we gonna, and like, all right, cool, we got the money now. How long is it gonna take to get the car? We're stressing, going back and forth. Ellie comes up, she's like, Papa, and runs up to me, smiling, and I'm just like, hey, and they don't tell you that like it's okay for your children to see those emotions. They don't tell you that hey, that's going to happen, and that kid isn't always going to make you smile right away, and doesn't make you a bad father, and doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't make you a bad mother. Because I used to say like right away, like, oh, Ellie, right there, my mental health drops. It's my daughter right away, and I think that's a cop out answer because it's not always her. Because sometimes she's the one stressing me out, or I'm stressed because I'm trying to figure out how to provide for her, right? But I think um, I've noticed that exercise, nature, smelling my own flowers again, and creating. It doesn't have to be poetry. It doesn't have to be music. Dog, it can be painting, drawing. It can be making a random flyer. It could be, I don't know, like come out with something, just creating. I feel like the creator created us to be creative. So just making something helps me. And man, I can just draw on the wall, like just something, just expressing myself, just doing something when I'm in that rut. But definitely, especially out here, man, nature. Especially if it's like a good rainy day,
Them
like
days,
not too hard.
those are good
Yeah,
days.
like
Those are good.
yes,
I know the
that for
day. I
me.
know the precise rainy day that you're
Yeah, you
talking
you know
about.
what I'm talking about. You,
That
you know
that
what I'm
what
talking about.
where
Yeah.
it's just that way all day. Yes.
Yep.
You find that
Yeah,
perfect
that
music
works for
album
me.
to put on, maybe another music album. You only listen to those albums
Hmm.
throughout the whole day because they just fit perfectly for that environment. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the vibe.
Hmm.
Nobody's gonna kill it.
Yeah.
I'm setting it. And that's it. It's final.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's how I get back on. But the biggest thing that I've learned too is not to let the things that bother me go unchecked. It's not, life isn't all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns and stuff. Like, if I'm stressed about money, it's cool to get back on track with my happiness, right? My mental health to be good. But all right, cool, bro. Like, all right, let's sit down and budget again. Let's do what you got to do. Let's get it right. But also, all right, let's get you in the right mindset before you like do something too drastic, like too reactive or something, trying to uh, get your mental health back. So
Mm.
it's just being an adult, man, and doing it with a partner is a lot easier. We also give each other space. So for those listening, and you have those mental health uh, times where you just get down, having a communication with your partner to recognize when you are getting down, and also being able to tell them like, "Hey, I need space," or "Hey, I don't want to be alone." And Cindy's really good at that because I had a breakdown in 2019 where we were supposed to meet up, and I don't know what happened, man. It just hit me, and I put the phone on do not disturb, airplane mode, turn off all the lights in the house, and I literally just sat in the dark on the couch for like 3 hours. I was supposed to meet up with her and the rest of my team at an event, and this didn't show up. And when she showed up, pissed at the house, man, I had like tears rolling down my face, and I'm talking the way I'm talking to you right now. You know how like your voice chokes up when you cry, and
Yeah.
I really didn't understand. I dissociated so much pain, and it was finally got caught up to me. That happened to me like twice in our relationship, and now we can kind of like recognize when I'm starting to get there, and she'll. Um, and I know I'm rambling, but I want to fit a lot of things in here. I seen this post a long time ago. Is Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. Piglet sitting on a log by himself, and Pooh asks him, "How are you? What's wrong?" And he just said, "I'm just sad today." And Pooh just said, "Oh man," and sits down. Piglet looks at him in the next frame. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Just being a good friend." And that hit me. I was like, 'cause sometimes I need that. I don't want to talk sometimes, and I just need someone just there. And that's like Cindy and we have a connection where we can do that. Like when she's sad, man, when she has her time, I'm like, hey, do you need me to sit on the log with you, or you need some space? And if she says she wants me to sit on the log with her, then all right, cool. We just sit on the couch, or I just sit next to her. Yeah, and we just vibe until she'll look at me. She's like, hey, thank you, and give a hug. And we do the same thing, man. Sometimes I just go on a walk, or right out here, I'll just go outside and like, hey, I just want to sit outside for a little bit. And she was like, oh, do you want me to join you, or you need to be alone? And I was like, a little bit of both. So I'll come out in like 30 minutes or something like that. And if I need
Yeah.
more time, I'll text her I need more time. And yeah, that's been helping me, man. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I think I'm good. So we'll see.
Thank you for sharing that, man. That
Yeah.
is really beautiful. I appreciate you feeling safe enough to share that with me. Like I
Thanks,
said
man.
offline, I know that we really hadn't had time to really just sit down and kick it, or maybe just go to one of the hookah spots and just catch up in person.
Yeah.
We always catching each other on the go, right? But I really
Yeah.
appreciate
But
you
you could
taking
tell.
time out. Say what now?
I said you could tell. Like I knew from your vibe from day one. I was like, okay, cool, yeah, he's solid. Like you could tell.
Yeah, we like I said, we just never had the opportunity to just do it.
Yeah.
Well, which is okay. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that there's always divine timing. There's never nothing not happening in the right timing. Is there anything? Is there any words of wisdom? Anything that you want to bestow to the people? Actually, you really just did with the. So, if for everybody that was out there listening, that last piece of advice about if you're married, if you're in a relationship, if you've been with your boo thing for let's say 1, 2, 3 years, listen to this man. That last piece of advice is golden. I'll be sure to write it down once we go offline. Let the people know where that they can find you, or that they can buy the book, and where they can hear this fire ass album once it drops.
All right, so everything is on freshlinencreates.com. So you'll find links to my current album that's out, A Breath of Fresh Air, and then my EP from the Artisan Air series that the Air Force put on. You just type in Artisan Air, Fresh Linen, and then as well as all the singles that I'm dropping. So right now, Exhausted is out on all music streaming platforms. On Fresh Linen Creates as well. You'll find links to my clothing brand, Flow, Fresh Linens, Artificial, and Eloquence, and that's through Shopify. And then as well as my book is on there, Before the Streetlights Come On. And if you buy the book, a portion of the proceeds goes towards a scholarship I started back in my alma mater in New Jersey.
Did y'all hear all that? He's doing a lot. He's creating a lot. This is a man who wears many hats, and I personally am looking forward to see all of the rest of the blessings that are going to be coming into your life, brother. Thank you again for
Thanks,
being in
man.
the seat. Everybody out there, y'all know where to find me at Griff's Official. Y'all know what the YouTube is at. The YouTube is Griff's Official. I actually have a new piece of equipment that I'll be using for the podcast as well to bring more of a a luxury, a luxurious production for the team. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all have a good night, man. We out.